Welcome back to A Case for Cannabis. My name is Alfredo Matthew, founder of Working World LLC, and I am so excited to be right here with Joyce Cenali, COO of Big Rock, the owner of Sonoma Hills Farm. Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
This is a pretty special place, I gotta say.
Yeah.
It's
pretty special. So many of us that were trying to step into the space here in California, I think envisioned what we're building here in, a craft cannabis community. It takes a village to do this. Agriculture is not a singular person, process. And so about 4 or 5 of us initiated this project that had stepped out of the, medical market, the 215 market, and kind of came together around this project alongside some really great folks on the capital front, and envisioned this project, purchased the land in 2017, and finally got a license after about 2.5 years in 2019, and now we're at market finally.
I can't believe that this has only been here a couple years, right? What I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Well,
I like this.
This was made out of something that's been here for over 100 years.
Yeah.
So this specifically, yeah.
Well, I met the farmer today. I met the guy you bought the land from today.
Mr. Collins, Walt. Yeah. Did he give you a big bear hug or?
Nah, he didn't. He didn't know me.
He saves that for me, the ladies. Yeah.
It's a farm. I saw a roasting pig. I've never seen a roasting pig, like a full, beautiful pig. It was delicious. Kale,
radicchio, broccolini, carrots. Most of what you ate came from here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's literally the most delicious food in the world. This place produces the best organic products in the world. This is the home of farm to table. This is wine. This is the Emerald Triangle. This is all of these beautiful things. What makes this place so special and so unique?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad your palate enjoyed it as much as we do. Well, Sonoma is definitely the sort of agricultural meets tourism area in the world. It is one of the top tourism geographies in the world, and I think we draw a lot of people because of our vineyards, but the surrounding agriculture in terms of the dairy farms, the cheese that comes from them, the vegetable farms, and now cannabis. And so at the end of the day, we wanted to kind of carry something forward that really showcases the best of lettuce, the best of carrots, the best of hemp, the best of, cannabis, to folks that really enjoy, as we do, to put the best flavor bursts in our mouths and in our bodies. So.
Yeah, California is such an amazing place, right? I'm a New Yorker, lived in California 15 years. The cities, Pasadena, Oakland, Berkeley, San Leandro. I come out, for go camping or something, but this is California. This is the rest of California, and this also is what makes California so dynamic and special.
Yeah, we just are so multi-pronged here. A lot of us had worked in the technology industry, and now here we are in agriculture, and that shift seems completely unnatural, but the truth of the matter is, the technology and how it actually assists, traditional systems that so many consumers, are accessing across the globe is what makes California so special. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. There's this amazing farmers market called the DeKalb County Farmers Market, and they only employ, it's a huge refugee area, Clarkston, so they only employ refugees. The amount of produce that comes from other countries is amazing, but the amount of produce that's sold there from California is well over 70% of what they sell. So when I think about that in terms of, exporting wine and hopefully eventually cannabis, it's really exciting to think about what people would actually think of California. It's this, it's not indoor, commoditized sort of middle market decent weed. It's the best weed.
It's the best weed. Tell me a little bit about that transition from the world of tech into cannabis. Like, how did you make that transition? When did you make that transition? What encouraged you to make that transition?
Yeah. So essentially, I had, as I mentioned, I'm from Georgia. I happen to have a bunch of friends that, and I think many of us in the cannabis community, the transition to the space was initially sparked by the Proposition 215 that, legalized cannabis for medical use in 1996. And a lot of folks, found innovations within the space over the years. Truthfully, for me, I started my path in the music industry. So I was an artist manager. I worked for a record label. Unfortunately, that path got cut short by the fact that streaming music basically decimated, I mean, yes, there were still performance opportunities, but if you didn't have a label backer or something, and so many labels were just going out of business because they didn't have a commodity market anymore. So I transitioned out of music and into tech, did licensing for a long time, but I sort of lost my passion for a moment, and I was growing in my home because of 215 since 2004, and had so many friends in the industry. So I eventually partnered with a dear friend, and we built out a project in the Sierras in Yuba County. There were 4 counties in that area that said, yes, we'll allow for medical, but they actually have not pivoted into the Prop 64 legal framework, unfortunately. So essentially, a lot of California that was involved in the medical side of the business, I think only they say something like 30% of jurisdictions are stepping into a licensing framework, and Sonoma is one of those. So in 2016, I had been working on that project for about 4 years. My transition into cannabis fully kind of got catalyzed by the fact that my father passed away. My father passed away from.
I know it's live. This is live TV.
This is live TV, y'all. My father passed away from cancer, unfortunately, in 2014, and that was the moment where I was like, whatever I have to do to just do this full time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Watching, him struggle with a disease where they were feeding him opioids and feeding him, things that just he just became an alien. And I think that if he had been able to utilize cannabis, that would have maybe eased his pain and helped him eat a little bit. And, he had stigmas against it, so he probably never would have allowed himself to participate. But, that's part of it, too. It's not just consumption of cannabis, in an ingestion format is not for everybody. But cannabis and hemp, if you, kind of think about all of the different applications, there actually is something for everybody that's going to make you feel a little bit better, whether it's a topical or a use in a food product, or a use in some sort of something you're wearing or something you're using.
And you can envision the day when the plant is fully utilized, when there's interstate commerce, when all of when the barriers are removed. This farm, this community is going to be an incredible place to be the best of the best.
Yeah. I mean, we want to have everybody have an experience with the plant that removes all of the, bad things. This is your brain on drugs, kind of statements that so many of us. It's
seared into our brains.
The eggs in the crack house, That's not what this plant is. This plant, was a part of, so until 1930 something, this plant was one of the top crops in America. Our Constitution was written on hemp paper. Like, there's 50,000 uses for it. The government actually, denoted that people had to produce a certain amount of hemp that had large farmland back in the day. We believe it was part of our, the animals ate it, so it went into our food system and was part of the nutritional value that humans got until they sort of banned production.
Why did they ban production?
Well, there's lots of different feelings and thoughts about that, but in the 30s, my belief is that they stigmatized it, called it marijuana, and, sort of blamed.
Anti-Mexicano,
Yeah. And I think it was probably the fossil fuel companies and the pharmaceutical companies that were seeing that the propagation of it was so broad that they weren't going to be able to effectuate a monopoly as much as they could certain other, practices. And so they legislated a ban that, has lasted through the modern day, and yet 50% of Americans at some point in time consume cannabis.
And so they legislated a ban. They incarcerated millions of Americans, right? Folks are still incarcerated for cannabis, and it's done a lot of damage. We are trying to come out of this period, right? Earlier this morning, I interviewed Nicole Elliott, the
Awesome.
Director of the Department of Cannabis Control, and she's like, California is trying to make it right. We recognize that there's a history that, we've traumatized folks, and we're trying to make changes. It is very difficult. Everything that I hear is this is a nascent industry. When you get in is very important. It's very ambiguous, right? I love entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneur. You have projects. You're trying to project the future. It's very difficult to project the future in this industry. How do you plan your business? How do you plan not being able to know, right, business cycles?
Well, first and foremost, we did choose Sonoma because we liked the ordinance that they put forward, which allows us to do the 3 types of grow, and is in a place that we've had a lot of scrutiny here. We've been sued. We've had neighborhood organizations started to protest our, licenses. We've had certain county operators that have been unkind to our traditional contractors because they don't like what we're doing. We've been called many derogatory terms, myself included, but we decided to set it up here because people globally know this place. Relative to, California and how it is setting up a framework, and I think many of us voted for Prop 64. We could talk about the body of the law, and there were parts of it that were strong, but there was a lot of loose ends that weren't tied up. So, for example, the people voted for a 1 acre cap for the first 5 years. When it went into them actually taking what the voters had voted on and putting it into an actual, framework that people then had to respond to and get regulatory oversight for, all of a sudden that acre cap went away. And the other piece that Prop 64 pushed forward was local rights. So local jurisdictions, townships, cities, counties make decisions. The fact that that cap was removed by the state meant that there were certain places that went a lot bigger and other places that restricted it altogether. In addition to that, the incarceration piece of it is also, it's not locally legislated, but it's locally administered. And there are plenty of townships and places that are taking their sweet time, removing people's felony charges from their, so you've still got tens of thousands of people. I was really excited to see in Los Angeles, a great advocacy group got, something like 4,800 records expunged not too long ago. But
wow.
the fact that we have this like local, initiative as opposed to a statewide matter, which I believe New Jersey just passed like a statewide initiative, and you can't ban anything locally. That was where California, kind of stumbled. And I think that a lot of people in Sacramento would say, well, we have to follow the body of the law. And me, as a person that voted for Prop 64, I voted for legal cannabis, and I voted for people to get out of jail. I didn't vote for the minutia that we put forward. And that's sort of one problem with, a democracy. At some point, the people just can't, they can't ingest all of this information, and the education
not
piece.
With all the props. I mean,
Yeah.
right? There's so many props. Like, you get very simple summaries of each side, and yet the legislators have to enact this, and right,
Yeah.
and there's so many different aspects of the government involved. It's not just regulating; it's the taxes, it's the water usage, it's this whole panoply of government entities, and then it's small business, craft, versus larger corporate interests, and it is a very complex
It's really
landscape.
complex. And our belief and my belief is that California doesn't survive if we don't have craft. If people don't have the kind of experience that we're trying to bring to them, the truth of the matter is I don't want to consume just some random, brand that I have no affinity to the storytelling of. Consumers are moving to a conscious direction.
Yeah.
They just are, or at least a large chunk of them, and certainly those that have, less stickiness on price points and, are going to give some price integrity to their food supply. So at the end of the day, I think the big industry folks, they need us way more than we need them.
Yeah. Well, it's, the Amazons of the world are gobbling up smaller businesses' market share, but this is a nascent industry and it has not been written yet. So the future is still to be determined. You're obviously fighting on the side of farm to table, craft, culture. This series is put on by the community colleges. The community colleges are taking an interest in this industry. They're right. There are folks, there's college presidents that I've been interviewing. There's people who are, going against the grain saying, I believe that this is normalized. We need to start creating actual pathways, formalizing it. How will that help you and what you're working towards to see formal education embrace this industry?
It's going to be a game changer. I mean, cannabis is so synonymous in terms of it has so many applications. And so the curriculum that I could envision where it is plugged in as some piece or, maybe it's the whole pie or just a small piece of it, it can effectuate a curriculum in science and math, actually, certainly in technology and agriculture. There's just, in religion, it's just, the list is endless of the types of curriculum that this could affect. And when you get that, influence in an academic setting, the whole, drug war kind of conversation or the, this is akin to X, Y, and Z, sort of bad word is definitely, it just, sort of fades away. And it normalizes. So, all of this is like taking small steps and picking away slowly but surely at, the human intention and the human sort of norm to, unfortunately, gang together culture-wise. And so we have to gang together culture-wise on this. And obviously the academic setting is so important to do that. And I just, that is one really great thing that California is doing with, granting this towards the community colleges. And I think that there are so many economic opportunities for people. It will be nice to have people that have a curriculum-based background outside of an operational-based background, because those of us that have been operating in the space for a long time, there is a lot of weight to it. There's a lot of trauma, frankly. And I'm really excited for fresh voices that still have some baseline in admiration for this plant. It's hard to navigate it every once in a while without getting a little bit jaded about it. This is a beautiful plant, and yet all this craziness comes with it.
Everybody I've spoken to has got some weight on their shoulders. Like there's some cynicism because of what they thought their journey was going to be, how difficult the journey actually is, and whether it's, public safety stuff in Oakland and not getting the support, with the police, or it's the excessive taxation, or it's, hey, we're going towards federal legalization. No, we're not going towards federal, so it's like all of this stuff. But yet people are still very excited about this industry. It is the fastest growing industry in the United States.
Is it?
That's what I've heard. Okay. I mean, how many states have legalized?
I believe when you include medical, I think we're at 36.
Okay, I thought it was 35.
I think it's 36 now because Mississippi just did.
I mean, if Mississippi is legalizing.
And theirs is going to be a pretty broad program. So, yeah.
So the opportunities are coming, right? It's just a question, can people hold on? Can they make it through? Where do you feel the opportunities in the industry are now? If you are someone who is not happy with your career, you're looking to change careers, or you're a young person and you want to get into a new industry, the cannabis industry, what are some good places to begin?
At the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, I think that there are multiple avenues for it. I think it's important to get experience under your belt. So young entrepreneurs that are saying, hey, I want to form a new company, I personally think that now is probably the time to band around those that have the licenses and that have the the baseline and the knowledge. So we've had a lot of entrepreneurial activity out here in California, and now we need to shore up the brands that are here. So, I often tell people, like, there are a lot of opportunities to get a job, to found a company. Probably now is not the right time unless you're in a brand new state, like a Mississippi. But relative to the paths, on the professional services side, there's a lot of necessity on the branding and marketing side to change the advertising model, which completely bans cannabis in so many different formats. So we need people banging on the doors of traditional broadcast and, social media companies to change that narrative. So, agencies that are focused there. So
you mean like policy changes?
Sure. I mean, policy changes, they are allowing for people to promote things without transacting, and yet state by state you can transact. So you can kind of, you can put up Instagram posts, but you can't actually put up an Instagram ad. So you're driving traffic already.
Well, I heard you can have an image of a flower, but you can't have an image and the word cannabis, or you get kicked off the platform.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't talk too much about that one, but yeah. So, that's a big area. In terms of accounting, legal, we always say the only people in the industry that are making the money are the accountants and the lawyers right now.
Yeah. The professional services.
Yeah.
Completely essential, like every business. Yeah. Right.
And then plant touching stuff, I think it's really, really interesting how many cannabinoids and how many different parts of the plant, aren't talked about. THC is really the focus. And so on the science and how that, sort of transcends into different mediums of consumptions. We work with a couple of companies on the formulation side. One focuses on nano emulsion technology. One focuses on, more like baked kind of processes. So there's so many different formats that cannabis is going to translate itself, into products. That's a really, really fun area. And I think, you'll continue to see a lot of technology evolution there. Retail, we need more retail. So folks that are really great, store managers or, working in the hospitality setting, I think on the retail side, the experience right now where folks are looking for THC potency sort of exclusively, they've had that audience for a while. So now to bring in new consumers that are going to be asking, different questions, I think, expanding the repertoire of what bud tenders are able to articulate is extremely important, and platforms for that, because from an educational standpoint, you also can't expect the person standing in front of you in a dispensary to be able to holistically understand everything about you, and doctors aren't really supposed to talk to you about it. So that area, how that monetizes is a little tough. We've seen a lot of companies kind of try and do stuff there, but the monetization for it is a little difficult. But those are just a few areas. On the agriculture side, there are definitely opportunities, but it varies state by state. So I say agriculture, in a lot of states it's just going to be an industrial warehouse.
But here in California, there's definitely a need for agricultural labor, everything. Yeah. So folks that are working vineyards, we work with them a lot in the, heavy months of planting and harvest and such. And in terms of, their skill set and how that can translate to other things that we're doing, it goes then past. You obviously take the plant and then you dry it. You cut it down wet, you dry it, and then it has to go into X, Y, and Z product. For us, we can manufacture into pre-rolls and into jars very soon. We'll be able to do that here on the property. And a lot of the sort of knowledge of the plant as it kind of, came to mature, it's nice to carry that through from a farmer, into the processing facility and into the jar, because at the end of the day, I keep saying this is agriculture. It is. And, agriculture can mold. It can have, things, every organic, box of blueberries I've picked up has one or two, maybe bad ones in there. So it's nice to have eyes that really understand that kind of all the way through the supply chain. It's nice to understand your supply chain, to understand where your food comes from. Like, we're so divorced from everything that we purchase.
Totally.
You don't know where it comes from. And half the times it can't arrive here because it's made somewhere else in the world and stuck in a port. And so we just have no connection to what we're consuming. That is a huge part of what. So I often hear this is a movement. This is not just a business. It's not just an industry. It's a movement. Is it a movement for you all?
4,000%. I wake up every day an activist, and that's awesome. I wear that badge with pride, and I hope all of us do. And it's something that bands together activists across so many different spectrums, from Wall Street to Main Street, so they say in Washington. And just, the different types of people that are engaging in the space. And hopefully, the end result that most of us would have liked to envision is not singular people making mass amounts of money, but, a more sort of competitive living wage across the entire industry that helps effectuate generational change for multiple types of communities.
Shared prosperity, broadly shared prosperity. What would you say to someone who is not a cannabis user, who is not paying attention to this struggle? Why should they care? Why should they vote for propositions that actually retain this craft culture, that support this industry?
Yeah, I mean, we're Americans, and at the end of the day, we believe in freedom, and that sounds cheesy and overplayed, but this plant hasn't been free, and it doesn't make any sense because she's gorgeous. She's one of the most beautiful plants on the planet, and there's no reason why she should have been locked away for so long. I think that, when you think about a movement that actually, re-engages something that's been in our system for so long, but that has been, sort of stigmatized or not sort of considered to be a normal option for people, that opens up avenues for other things that aren't really good for us. I don't think anybody other than maybe the Sickler family is excited about opioids today. The Sackler family, sorry.
The Sackler, yeah.
But, we have problems in America because we chose not to go in a more holistic direction with certain wellness processes within our food system and within our pharmaceutical.
And we're paying the price, right? We're paying the price. We have a very unhealthy society physically, a lot of mental health issues, right? There's a lot of challenges. But I don't want to end on that depressing, cynical place. What are you hopeful for? What do you want to see? What do you want to manifest in the next few years for Sonoma Hills Farm, for your community, for this plant?
So, the promise of students getting involved and people actually having a path towards learning about this plant out of the gate without the stigmatization that so many of us grew up with is what I hope for. I hope for a fresh eyes and a way to participate and sort of showcase this plant to different people in different ways. The moments that I most enjoy are those moments that are surprise and unexpected moments where somebody from, my preschool or my high school or whatever calls me up and says, I have never tried cannabis before, but I have X, Y, and Z reason that I need to try and think about it. Please tell me how to access it and what you think. That baseline in terms of being able to share the knowledge, to spread that to more people. I just hope every day I can meet somebody to change a little bit. And if that domino effect happens, again, I hope this industry helps change people's lives economically, but more so about how we kind of creatively, socially, and wellness engage with ourselves and our community.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job just stepping in this place. Like, you can feel it. Like, I don't think I've ever been in a place quite like this. Wow. I think it's so unique to Sonoma County, so unique to Northern California. It's got a great vibe. It's got the most delicious food, and you're really doing something powerful. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your story and just spending some time with us.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate what y'all are doing, and I can't wait to meet some of the students that come out of these programs.
Well, I think we got to get Xavier and Audrey to bring a cannabis tour here, and
Absolutely.
maybe some professors and some deans, and and
my retirement strategy is become a professor. So in this arena, so raising my hand.
Well, the way I've been thinking about it, this is an opportunity for folks with lived experience. The community colleges are really about upskilling, reskilling folks. You need people with lived experience to come in to right. You're not going to get a tenured professor with 20 years teaching cannabis. It has to be people with lived experience who can really pass on the knowledge.
Awesome.
So,
all right.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Let's go get some ice cream.
Yeah.